questions or comments?
I found myself, I thought that I'm doing the practice correctly. I thought, and then the next moment, it was, I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing anything. I'm not in the practice at all. So,
No.
it's like I'm jumping between these things. And then I do this and go back.
Right. So remember, how do we know if we're doing this practice correctly or not? Well, the two imbalances, of course, is dullness and distraction. So distraction means, are we focusing on any appearance? If we're focusing on appearances, then we're out of the practice. And are we just going into this dull state? I mean, if we go really into complete dull state, then there's no awareness. And it's only after we go, oh, hang on, I was just completely gone into dullness. So within that, of course, there are many variations. So if we just simply know that we're aware, then now, of course, what's probably going to happen is either we're going to start to sink into dullness, but we're still knowing that we're aware that we're sinking a lot. But at least that's better than passing out. So we're still in the practice. I mean, a bit of work to do. That's why I said if we notice that we're sinking, then particularly lift the gaze and sharpen the focus. And then the other one is that we're knowing that we're aware, but then a lot of things are happening, agitation. You're not really following, but there's stuff going on there. And so then what to do then is to lower the gaze and release, release, release. So of course, there's a lot of work to do once we are resting in awareness in terms of overcoming dullness and agitation. But if we're completely out of the practice, means we're completely caught up in some appearance, or we're more or less passed out and we're just about falling asleep. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So I felt like completely aware of everything and a lot had happened. So most of the time I felt like just aware, but a little bit of myself was anchoring through the breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like during the awareness, I felt like I'm like becoming aware of, movement or sound. And then a little bit of my focus went there, so I went, and I didn't even say it, but I was like going something, and come back, and something, and come back.
I mean,
but it felt like still, every time I saw something or heard something, a little bit of the focus went to that thing, only to say, notice, come back.
good. I mean, that's much better than normal. Normally we're gone, completely gone. So the fact that you have managed to maintain that a little bit and you started to go and then you come back, that's already a big improvement. So if we just keep doing that, you'll find that you'll less go and you'll just be able to stay. So that's already an improvement. And then you mentioned as well something else, I think.
Breathing?
Yeah, so breathing. Saying similarly is that, and that's something I was going to mention later, but I'll bring it in now, is that, again, in this practice, the big tendency, of course, can be as soon as something appears, because that's our habit. So to help anchor ourselves, we can go, if we notice that, and all the time swept away, then again, go back and anchor in the breath a little bit. And that can give us a bit of an anchor point. So have that as an anchor point, and that will help us to rest in awareness. And then maybe initially you're more focused on the breath and less on the awareness, but then slowly place more emphasis on awareness, less on breath, more aware. Keep moving, and then eventually just completely on awareness. So you can use the breath as an anchor point to move into awareness, so that's good.
But then, I felt like I'm mostly concentrated on the awareness, but then still the breathing was the most present thing.
Yeah. And probably that's because we've spent some time focusing on the breath in the past day or two. So that's sort of our habit. So that's okay. Just when you notice that, just keep coming back, coming back. We're just developing a new habit, that's all.
I feel like I'm being aware of something specific. For example, I'm aware that I'm aware of sounds, and then I never quite get aware of anything else. Is that good?
So normally we are caught up in everything. And then to pull back from that, we had yesterday's practice, meaning we're just observing things. So we're aware of, and yesterday of course it was specifically thoughts, emotions and so forth. Of course, implicit in that is where we are aware of being aware of that. So what we're doing here in this practice is we're making that explicit. So already that if you're aware of being aware of that, that's already another step back. And then what we're wanting to do is just maintain that and let go of the awareness of appearances. We're not trying to block them, of course, we can't block them, but we're shifting our attention from the appearances to the awareness itself.
Just that I feel that there's a little bit of, I am aware of being aware, but there's still some manipulation.
Some manipulation.
I'm manipulating what I'm aware of, sort of, like...
Well, again, it's not, if we're trying to manipulate...
No, I'm not trying to.
No, I mean, that's what will happen, is because that's what we do now, is in daily life, if something unpleasant comes, we try and push it away. If something pleasant comes, we try and hold on to it. So we're manipulating all day long now. So we just need to sort of let go of that manipulation, and that'll take time, because we will manipulate. Something unpleasant, we go, oh, I don't like that, go away, or, oh yeah, that's nice, I'll take that. And so there will be that manipulation, and of course, to notice, already the start is to notice we're manipulating. Already that's an improvement. Because if we notice we're manipulating, then we can start to let go of that manipulation. So that's already one step better than before. So that's okay. And if you notice that you're manipulating, just let that go and just keep coming back to that awareness. We're just developing the habit of just that. It'll take time, because our strong habit is to get caught up in appearances. So that's okay. And again, if you're finding you're getting caught up a lot in appearances, then you could, if you want, go into anchor yourself a little bit in the breath to help that process in the short term. So that can help as well.
I think maybe I'm wrong, but in daily life, when I'm after an activity, like after, I don't know, a sport or something, when I'm resting there, it sort of comes naturally. Because when the body is alive and full of life, when you rest, you feel calm, but you're not falling asleep. And this is what we're trying to do here, because I felt really calm, like doing nothing, absolutely resting. But when the body is, we're sitting a lot of time, so I feel like I'm sinking over time, like I don't, and like I need to move, like something.
Exactly. So the question here is about, I think, our sort of daily life habit now is when we're alert, we tend to be tense, doing things. And when we're relaxed, we sort of sink, because that's what we do in daily life, we sink. And so, of course, here, this practice is all about relaxation. So, what we're doing is we're sinking, because that's what we normally do when we relax. But like all Shamatha practices here, we're developing a new habit, that is to relax and at the same time remain completely alert. So that's something new for us. And so that's why in this practice we can do that balancing, is that really emphasize relaxation, but then particularly on the in-breath, emphasize alertness, being sharp, being focused. Otherwise we'll just sink, because that's what we normally do.
It's not exactly what I meant when, like, doing meditation after an active body feels more alive.
More
So
alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I less think. I can sit for longer.
Right, because if we're agitated, if we're tense, then it's hard to sink. But that's at a big cost. So we don't want to have agitation as the solution to sinking. That's not a good idea.
It's not,
But even if the body is really buzzing, isn't it?
yeah.
Of course, if the body's buzzing, it's not going to sink.
Yeah.
If the mind is buzzing, it's not going to sink. But buzzing body and mind is not a good state to be in because it's exhausting. If our body and mind are buzzing all day long, we become completely exhausted, don't we? So what we're trying to do is establish a new baseline. And that is can be completely relaxed in the body and the mind, and at the same time be completely alert. That's something new for us. We not really have done that before. But that's what this practice is moving towards, is that complete relaxation and at the same time being fully alert. But that'll take time.
I have a big story with my eyes all these years. And I found that when I open trying to gaze up and down, all the open eyes makes me stress. And then I falling downness. And now I accepted, like I release all the story with my eyes and just close it as usual. I was alert completely. So I preferring, though you say a lot of things, good things with the eyes, like I understand that closed eyes is better for me.
Sure.
To be more alert, maybe because I'm used to it. Of course I'm used to it, but I cannot get used to the open eyes.
Yeah, and that's very common because many of us in the modern world, of course, are very agitated because of all the stimulus. So if we have the eyes open...
It's the muscles make me tired. Like, I have stress here.
Stress it. That's right, because we're tense. So that's what happens, is that because most of us have this sort of way, then we have the eyes open, there's even more tension. So it's very difficult. So what I recommend is that when we meditate at home, and I like to do this all the time, is meditate in a completely dark room. Completely dark room. And if you can't find a dark room, then you can get these it's like a sleeping mask, but they're like contoured. They're not pushing up against the eye, so they're contoured. So you can have a sleeping mask on and have your eyes open and it's completely dark.
I think it's the open of the, how do you call this?
The eyelid?
Yes, that's what make me, the muscle. It's not nothing around, it's only the muscle.
So you have this all day long, every day?
Yes. So
always?
Yes.
And of course with the glasses, it's good to have them off when you meditate, of course.
Of course. But all this issue with my eyes, it's all the time, I'm tired here without the meditation.
Yeah, I mean, then maybe also what can be helpful is to really have the eyes very, very nearly closed, sort of like that, because often when people open, they sort of do this, and then of course you get a lot of tension around the eyes. So, you know, you can do, many meditators sort of just do this sort of very, very little bit. So experiment a little bit with that, and that's probably more restful. I prefer open, but many people prefer to do like that. So just experiment with that. And of course here, if you're really finding a lot of stress, then yeah, have your eyes closed. But I would recommend when you go home then to experiment with that, different lighting and so forth, and head position and so forth. Because again, then if we can do that, then in daily life, we're normally having our eyes open. And then because we've meditated with eyes open, resting in awareness, observing thoughts, it's much easier to be able to be in that state in daily life because it's very similar then. So that's another advantage, of course.
Can you give an example from daily life when we do this manipulation that you talked about? Like when we...
Manipulation?
Yes.
Oh, we do it all the time. We like pleasant things, so we're attracted by pleasant things. We don't like unpleasant things, so we're sort of trying to avoid or push away unpleasant things. I mean, that's manipulation.
An example, like how do we do it? Like,
What do you mean, how do we do it?
like example. examples from daily life, not something.
Well, we go to
general.
lunch there and we see one food we really like and we go, oh, put a lot of that on there. Or that stuff, I don't really like that. So, and then of course, if we like what we like is not there, we go, food is no good today.
No thinner.
I mean, I'm not sure what the question is, though. Maybe I'm missing the question.
I'll think about
Okay,
because it's not the answer that.
yeah,
So I think about how to
right. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have likes and dislikes, but I'm just saying that as long as we feel like the source of our happiness and suffering is out there, we're going to manipulate. We're going to manipulate, of course we are, because those nice things out there seem to be giving me happiness, so I'm going to try and get those nice things. And those unpleasant things out there really seem to be causing me a lot of suffering, so let's sort of try and avoid all those unpleasant things out there. So that's sort of manipulation. But, you know.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
During this meditation and the other, the previous one, I had a few times an experience where when I was trying to focus on the awareness of knowing, it felt like suddenly I was withdrawn back. Everything became vivid for a few seconds and like tense. I mean, tense not in the sense that I was tense, in the sense that I was bright and
Clear.
intense.
Yeah, vivid, yeah.
Yeah, and I was aware of that, and it was kind of weird, and I didn't know what to do. Let's see what's going on, and then after a few seconds, it would go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that is what if that's what I should move toward, or is it just a sort of distraction or an appearance?
Well, that actually brings me to the topic that I wanted to talk about now, so I'll answer that with the topic. In that quote I gave this morning from that Dzogchen master, he said, "Loosely relax and watch your thoughts from afar, clearly observing whatever arises." So that was what we did yesterday. That which observes is called mindfulness. That which is observed is called movement. And resting in that state is called stillness. So that's what we're doing today, resting in that state of stillness of awareness. And then he says, if you meditate earnestly, stable meditative experiences of the bliss, luminosity and non-conceptuality of shamatha will arise in your mind stream. So when we do this or any shamatha practice, there are three qualities of mind that start to arise as we go deeper into the practice. And the three qualities are clarity. Here they use the word luminosity, which is the same word as clarity. Non-conceptuality and bliss. So what we'll notice, regardless of whether we're focusing on the breath, looking at the mind, or resting in awareness, as we go deeper into the practice, we'll start to experience each one of these three things. Clarity means, of course, our mind is becoming more and more clear, and we can have this little, I think this is what you're talking about, is suddenly our mind becomes crystal clear, and it may only last a short time, but crystal clear. And non-conceptuality here is really about, again, this sort of mind becoming very still. So we could have this sort of very strong experience of just stillness. And then the bliss, we can have just all of a sudden this spike of joy or bliss, quite intense. And so these things can appear as, particularly if we start to go a little bit deeper in the practice, we can get these little spikes of these experiences. And the meditation texts warn the meditator about all of these experiences. because they're all very seductive. They tend to be quite pleasant. And so when they start to happen, people go, "Ooh, that's nice, I like that, I want that. How can I hold on to that?" And then, of course, as soon as they try and hold on to it with attachment, immediately it's gone, immediately. And then they go, "Okay, what I need to do is recreate that. How can I recreate that experience that was so nice?" And then they try with craving and attachment to recreate it, and of course that will never happen with craving and attachment. So people then just get more and more frustrated because I had that beautiful experience yesterday, but now it's just gone and I really want it back. And of course, if we do like that, we've completely gone astray in the practice, because all we're now doing is having some craving and attachment for some meditative experiences. So rather than getting caught up in craving and attachment for these when they arise and our whole practice coming to a grinding halt, rather use these experiences as signposts that our practice is going in the right direction, and then use that very experience to go deeper into the practice. Because if our mind suddenly becomes very clear or very still or very blissful, that is the perfect time then to go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. And of course, initially these experiences will be brief. They'll come, they'll go, they'll come, they'll go, but they're signposts. So use them as signposts that we're going in the right direction, and don't get caught up in craving and attachment for them. Otherwise, our whole practice will come to a grinding halt. And then I want to speak a little bit more about this non-conceptuality experience, but we'll leave that till this afternoon. If your mind is clear, then really just pay closer attention. If your mind is blissful or joyful, then you're very enthusiastic, you can pay closer attention. And if the mind is very still, you don't have a lot of things pulling your mind, just keep focusing on whatever you're focusing in a very clear way, because these are helping us to maintain that focus. So just maintain that very clear focus on whatever the object is, that's all. So we don't need to do anything special. Luminosity, sometimes this word clarity is in the text is translated as luminosity. So luminosity just means clear again. So we're not saying we'll see some sort of light. It's not sort of some bright light that we're going to see. Luminous just means, again, it's just crystal